Okay, this is Unit 9, Day 3 notes. This is going to be Part 1. And we have another kind of triangle that we haven't looked at before. And this is where we're going to start with a right triangle. And then I'm going to put an altitude in it. And remember, an altitude comes down and it makes a right triangle here. So these have to have it has to start with a right triangle here, and it has to have a right angle here. So I really have created 3 triangles in here. I've got the big one, and then I'm going to highlight this orange one, which I'm going to highlight here too. And I have a pink one on this side, which I'm going to do here too. So remember, there's 3 triangles. There's the big one, the little one, this one, and that one. And then this is my altitude coming down, like we talked about 2 times ago. So Mr. Gallatin made these notes, and he gave us this formula to begin with. And let's just check it out with this triangle to see if it really works, and if they're proportional. So it says to take the side 1, that's one of the parts here where it's been cut in half. This bottom part has been cut into 2 parts. They're not equal, but they're 2 parts. So I take this one here, and I put this number on top. So this is 64 goes on top. And then notice that I put the altitude in 2 places. So I take whatever this altitude is, and I'm going to put it in 2 places, here and here. So it happens to be 48, so I put it here and here. And then I take this other side, and it goes right here in this part, 36. Now, are these equal to each other? Well, let's take and put them up each up here. 64 over 48 and 48 over 36. So I can put these in my calculator to test if these things are actually equal. And I just do 64 divided by 48. But that gives me this ugly decimal. Remember how to change this to a fraction. Do math, and then the first thing it says there is fraction. You do enter. And it tells me that that's equal to 4/3. Now I'm going to do it with this one. 43 divided by 36, enter. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 48. That's why it didn't come out. 48 divided by 36. Math, enter, and look, that's also 4/3. So these 2 triangles are similar because their sides are proportional. So now we're going to do several examples that way. And remember, what we're looking for is we need the altitude, and then we need this side that's been split into 2 parts here. So here I have the altitude as x, and then I need these 2 parts, this part and this part. Well, they didn't happen to give me this part here, so I'm going to have to just subtract to find it. So I subtract those and I get this is 64, and then I can set it up. I need these 2 parts go here and here, and for the record, it doesn't matter which one I put here and which one I put there. I just pick them, 64, and this one will be 36. They just go in these 2 places. And then the altitude goes in the other 2. Now this problem might look familiar because we had one like this on day 1 just to practice how these worked. X times x is x squared. And 64 times 36. 64 times 36 is 2304. Now how do I solve it and find just x? Well, I take the square root of that. So square root. And if you don't know how to do this, you don't have to retype this in every time. You can just hit second. You hit second, and it does this little arrow thing. And then if I hit here, it does answer. Like right here on this negative sign, it says answer right above there. If I click that, it says it's going to take whatever my last answer was and put it in right here for me. And it tells me that x is 48. Alright, on the next one, it's basically the same thing. I have this part here, and this part here are my 2 sides, and then my altitude is x here. So my 2 sides go in these positions, and my altitude goes here and here. I know one of them is 9, and I find the other one by subtracting, and I get that one 16. Cross multiply. 16 times 9 is 144 equals x squared, and then take the square root, and we get x equals 12. And in the last one, they gave us the parts we needed. Here's one of the sides, and here's the other one. Remember, the altitudes go here and here in diagonals, and the sides go in the other one. Cross multiply. 7 times 9 is 63, and x squared. And I get the square root of 63, because I have to take the square root. And then if I put this in my calculator, I get x is 7.9. Now sometimes we also may need to use Pythagorean theorem. I have 3 right triangles here because the big one was a right triangle, this one's a right triangle, and this one's a right triangle. And if I have 2 of the sides of a right triangle, I can find the third side. So sometimes I'm going to need to do this. So I'm going to try to use my formula just that we had here, but sometimes I have to also use Pythagorean theorem. So here, let's see what I've got. I've got this part here, and I've got this part here. And if I subtract, I can get the pink one. That's just 16. But I don't know anything about this one. This is the one that's the altitude, so I'm going to put A for altitude. So if I do this, I can still work it out, and I get 16 over A and A over 9. Cross multiply. This is actually the exact same problem I was working up there. 16 times 9 is 144, equals A squared, A equals 12. So this part right here is equal to 12. But it didn't ask me for 12, it asked me for this side over here. Now I can just do Pythagorean theorem in this triangle to solve for my part I'm really looking for. 9 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. Work out the Pythagorean theorem, and you get x is 15. Okay, the next one. So again, here I know this part, but now it's looking for this part, and I don't know the altitude here. But I can use this triangle here and do Pythagorean theorem to find the altitude. So I'm going to use this triangle here. Remember, C is always the longest side, so that's my C. So I'm going to have 9 squared plus, I'm going to call this A for altitude, A squared equals 15 squared. Work it out, and you find that Y equals 12. So A equals 12. A equals 12. The altitude is actually 12. Now that I have these 3 parts, now I can use my new formula. My altitude is 12 and 12. This side here is 9, and this side here is x, so I can work this out. And I get 144 is 12 times 12 equals 9x. X is 16. And finally, this last one is very similar to the one we just did. I need to first figure out Pythagorean theorem to figure out what my altitude is. I'm going to call that A. 36 squared plus A squared equals 60 squared. And I get A equals 48. So my altitude is 48. Here's my other 2 parts from my formula. Side 1 and side 2. So side 1 and side 2 goes here and here. Altitude goes here and here. And cross multiply, work this out, and we get x equals 64.